guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new Just No HOA content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Get Rid of My Lady Lair That Came With the House? Sorry, HOA, you approved the sale. When we bought our house, the largest in the hood and the original showcase home for the development, there was a shed in the backyard. My Lady Lair, if you will. The home sale was approved by the HOA and a letter of no violations was issued. All good, right? The home unfortunately came with scads of abandoned property. Within 24 hours of taking possession of our home, the former owners broke back in to remove what was now legally ours, a suitable story for entitled people. I stopped at the security guard shack to inquire about ensuring that the former owners' gate codes were inactivated and to keep an eye out for any attempt at continued entry into the gated hood. The guard assured me he would handle it and I went on my way. That evening the guard came to my home to give me additional info I might need and offered security cam footage for the police. I thanked him for taking the time to make me feel safe in my new home, but before he left he said, "Just to warn you, the HOA will go after you for your shed, they want it gone." After a bit more discussion he informed the former owners were not only batshit crazy but had gone toe-to-toe with the HOA over the shed. 3 years and lawyers all around the HOA finally said F it. This is costing us too much money and their lawyer is better than ours, and dropped the whole thing. Within 2 weeks I had 2 different neighbors tell me the HOA would give me problems over the shed. Fun. At the 3-week mark an inspector from the county showed up to tell me he was investigating an anonymous complaint about code violations and the shed, visible only if you stood on my property, was in violation with the county as there was no permit for it. I was livid and already considering what avenues I had to keep my shed or win compensation for the loss of property when the code enforcer smiled a devious smile at me, handed me a printout, and said, "All you need to do is fill this out, pay $50 to the county, and you will be in code compliance." He then said that, "Mr. Little Man Syndrome, I mean that anonymous complainant, cannot touch your shed after that." The key here is that 4 years ago when they were battling the former residents the county did not permit sheds and the bylaws say all additional property structures require permits. If there is no permit the HOA can order the removal and fine the resident until it is gone. 2 years ago the county started permitting sheds and HOA was unaware of the change. I paid my $50 and got the permit, making my Lady Lair code compliant and untouchable by the HOA. I also made a new friend in code enforcement and all is well in my 150 square feet slice of heaven. Next one is titled, Local Nearby HOA Thinks They Can Prevent Unwanted Traffic. Disclaimer. I got this info secondhand from a usually reliable source, so I don't want to call them to find out if this is 100% accurate. Because I don't want to give them any ideas. Where I live, in order to get to my place of work I can take Main Road A or Main Road B once I drive out of my nearest residential street and of course, face possible congestion and traffic lights. One day I was using Waze for an unrelated matter and I knew it was going to take me on the same road my job is on as part of the route, but instead of having me take Main Road A or B, it gave a nice shortcut. See, on residential street nearest to me I can either make a left on the nearby cross street to get to Main Road A or just keep going straight to get to Main Road B. However, thanks to Waze I found if you make a right into said cross street, if you keep going just a few blocks and hitch a right on a short side street you're on the road my workplace is on and I only have to travel just a short distance away with only one traffic light that is short. It literally cut my commute which was already short down 50 to 60%. I was telling a friend about my newfound discovery, and she said this. Wait, does that cut through Community Y? Site note. This route cuts through a residential area. Me. Yes, why do you ask? I have a friend that lives there. She doesn't care but apparently some Karens are fed up with through traffic using their street as a shortcut to get to Road X, the one my workplace is on, for their jobs. Me. Too bad, it may cut through a residential area but it's a public street maintained by the DOT. Well apparently what they want to prohibit through traffic during rush hour between I think 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. unless you're a resident. Me. How the hell are they going to enforce that? From what I was told they will give residents a sticker for the front and back windshield of their cars. They petitioned the city to have the local police look for cars without them during those time periods, and if they don't see them they'll pull you over and give you a fine. Me. Cool. I'll continue doing that route, and if they find me I'll just take them to court and tell them they have no legal right to tell the owner of a legal registered motor vehicle not to drive on a public street maintained by the DOT. Here's the thing about this. There was an entire town in NJ a few years ago that tried this. It only lasted a couple of years before a judge told them, you can't do that. I'm sure this will be the same. Secondly, in order to use this shortcut you have to actually live nearby. I'm thinking it was some nosy Karens who freaked out at some unfamiliar vehicles and decided to pitch a fit. Next one is titled, Terrible HOA. I own a condominium, apartment-style individually owned units for those that aren't familiar. I could regale you with so much craziness. The HOA itself is terrible, but even worse seems to be the management companies they hire. I'll recount my first interaction with them. I first became engaged when they slapped us with a $10,000 special assessment fee soon after I moved in. Went to the meeting and it seriously felt like I was on Jerry Springer. To this day I'm still unclear on what are facts versus speculations, but at least some of it was very much real. The night before this meeting, some angry neighbor types had brought in the cops and a news organization to publicly arrest and shame the building manager and assistant, staff members for the management company hired by the board, over a large chunk of missing money. Now the manager seemed like she was maybe into some crap, but this poor assistant was a woman in her 60s that had always been very kind and helpful to me and didn't directly even do the budgets. She teared up afterwards telling me how it was the worst experience of her life, being strip searched and treated like a degenerate in jail. She quickly quit and moved to a new city. Back to that night, there is a faction of homeowners out for even more blood. Reveling in the arrests and convinced that not just both the staff, but the board members themselves must be prosecuted as well. The claims made were mainly that the management company had been making unsavory deals with contractors, leading to overcharging for work that was often inadequate. The building was out of money and out of code. The books weren't kept well. Money was certainly mishandled, but the extent of the malice was unclear. In addition, some strange events happened, such as a homeowner having new appliances swapped with old appliances immediately after purchase. AKA his property was stolen and something of lesser value put in its place. But this whole meeting was a crazy, off-the-walls screaming match full of many other accusations and personal attacks. The board, clearly overwhelmed about the whole situation, didn't have the adequate evidence to prove their innocence, and they had to play the unfortunate role of being the bridge between the management company and the homeowners. I don't personally think they were in on it, but some did. They were accused of getting kickbacks and personal favors, with one member having claims made against her that she wasn't having to pay for her parking spot. She spoke up, at this point very distressed, about how not only yes is she paying for her spot and has multiple times shown the accusers evidence of that, but that these nosy, do-gooder-a-holes were verbally harassing her every chance they got. She shared stories of the awful things people said to her and broke down in front of everyone about not feeling safe or welcome in her own home, all while actively trying to fix it through her role on the board. In the end, the building manager's whole family was tied to sketchy themes and the charges stuck. Unfortunately, we were left footing the bill of getting our building into shape. Every meeting is a crap show, but that one was definitely the worst. We are now onto our third management company during few years thereafter the second left, I've been told, because our building was so difficult to work with. I've personally been affected by it multiple times. There is one neighbor in particular, not even on the board, I'm sure she would be if she could get the votes, who is incredibly antagonistic and yells over every single talking point in the meeting as others are trying to speak. It's pretty unbearable. Would be nice if we all actually had an equal voice, but multiple times they have caved to her demands because she is louder and meaner. It seems necessary for condominium living, but the fiasco that I've experienced here has really shown how awful it can be. Part of our problem seems to be that the board members have other responsibilities, this isn't their job. It seems really hard to manage something on this scale well as a volunteer, and unfortunately where I live also very difficult to hire good management to delegate to without being scammed or mistreated. Next one is titled, What a House. My sister swore she'd never live in an HOA neighborhood, but now she wishes she did, and it's all thanks to her idiot neighbor across the street. It's a nice neighborhood, old growth trees, shady, all the houses are a bit different, so it's not a cookie-cutter place. But the guy across the street has taken the uniqueness of his house too far. It's not that they're eclectic homeowners who have a funky style. It's that they have no idea what they are doing and have destroyed their front yard by trying to level it by simply having dump trucks dump dirt all over it but not employing any professional to pack and level it correctly, so when it rained it turned into a mud pool. They built a wall on the curb, about 3 feet high, and tiled it with bathroom tiles rather than tiles meant for outdoors, and after a few months of exposure to the elements, tiles started falling off. They had what could have been a pretty cedar fence installed along their property, but they installed it themselves, so the posts are all cattywampus and now it's leaning every which way like it's drunk. Most recently they put a circular paved driveway in front of their tiny house, that has a badly leveled yard too small for such a driveway. They then installed a giant parking lot lamp post in the middle of the driveway, like one you see in huge mall parking lots, not a pretty short or ornamental one. Their front door is this eye-watering weird bright blue shade that doesn't match the rest of the neutral tones paint job on the house. And they have 2 giant concrete Chinese-style lions at either side of the driveway, one of which the husband hit with his car shortly after it was installed, so it's missing half its side. My sister and Bill see this monstrosity from their den window all day long and it's so painful. I don't live there, so laugh at it, but holy crap, that house is ducked up. Last one is titled, HOA Coronavirus, 2 years ago. My wife traveled to China in early December due to the death of her father. She returned to the USA this most recent Sunday, the 2nd of February, early in the morning. She was in an area of China very far away from Wuhan, and for the past 2 weeks she stayed at home the entire time she was in China. When leaving she went through a temperature screening at the airport there, and nothing else was required of her health-wise at SeaTac. There are no government-mandated quarantines in any way at the moment. She decided she would stay home for 2 weeks anyways just to be safe, but realistically the chance of having any dangerous virus is probably lower than catching the flu. Only one neighbor of mine knew my wife was out of town in any ways, and I told them when she would be returning. On Monday the 3rd, a property manager with our HOA condos came to our door while I was at work and yelled at my wife, telling her she can't be here and has to leave because she went to China. This morning posted all around only our condo unit was flyers saying that a person in unit XXX has returned from China and was under coronavirus quarantine and is very dangerous and you should avoid them. This type of posting is intentionally ostracizing my wife and making her feel unwelcome to even be here, especially after suffering such a family hardship. These HOA people have no idea where she even was in China, nor did they talk to us about anything. They just immediately considered her a threat and are trying to impose some sort of quarantine on her. Would love to hear options to explore how to deal with them. So far I have called the local PD to get a case report about possible civil rights housing violations, as they are impeding on her ability to live here based on her national origin, race. Edit. Thai for advice. I sent the board a very strongly worded letter that suggested legal action after a local sheriff spoke with the property manager guy and my wife separately. All the signs are gone and now they are kissing her butt completely. The property manager's excuse for why he did it pretty much amounted to, "I was told to do it so I just followed orders," as if this alleviated him of any responsibility. Must be 78 years old going on 4, I suppose. Appreciate all the support and we will continue on now. Prob look for a new place in the near future to live. The only single neighbor who knew that my wife was out of town at all, and I assume is the one who ratted us out to the HOA in the first place, would not even open the door and talk to me when I knocked. They just murmured through the door and said to call them. Yup, duck that rat piece of crap. For being adults, these people sure are total ducking cowards. The only support in our building that we have received so far has been the Hispanic couple across the hallway from us, which we spoke with maybe 6 times in 2 years. The wife simply knocked on our door when I was at work, asked my wife how she is doing and if she thinks she is sick. My wife told her no and explained her time in China to her and why her risk level was far beyond 0. The lady said Thai and went along on her way. By actually talking to my wife, she showed more respect than any of these 70-plus-year-old crusty white ducks on the HOA board. My wife is under no mandate in any way to stay home, but she will continue to do so voluntarily because she cares enough to respect others even if the respect is not returned. Anyways, hoping everyone stays safe out there and thank you. Thanks for listening.